Modu Jede Bar, the Mother Mabos, the law of Galo, the Mother Doctor, the on to those on the bar, you know, the Galo, or you know, Gu Shingadama, region, you do know your child, or you Kaji Lama Lama Go, woman, your Polomino, Fajibu, Monio, Fijugo, Toto, the Lamija Go, the Daki. Not so many boys, Gila, Falls, and Gido, the Daki, not about you, and the to run about down. Such a nothing like lui dam de ra ni yin ru so ye dang ge sa ko ta chok ta xu yo le shi la xi yo ma ye la kang xi xu yo le yin na le ka ta jie ren ge ko ge cha ba le jie ren ji dong kang yi la jie xi yong wa jie ren so jie xi yong wa ta ta ma de ba ta ma to pa de ba jie ren me de ta pa yi 좀 보여 속들이 너무 좀 얘나 내 깨름티 못할 깨니 치고 저런 용화들이 조름송 즉시 용화라 진짜 또 조름 보면 나만도 막 보이고 얘는 조름 보면 하기가 그게 저런 무슨 됐니 그런 거래 내 강나더니 무슨 이런 거는 선우직인지 자리에 강지 그다뭐 공을 했더니 내롭다 했더니 공부했더니 내발 맞아봐 제에 맞다 아버지는 하도 딱이요 말이 제를 때문에 다 사지 탑지가 점하다는 통보를 그래 무슨 못 보는 정도요 그래 못 보는 지나 대라 보다 세만지 대만지나 대라 끼어들이 또 봐대라 다도 정도들이 고바대 잡고 요래 조금 저름다. 이때 사통 제일 나오지 뭐 따봐인데 이 롱다를 bet이나 파차나 사통 따봐래. 뭐 따봐 철까지리. 그래. 바다 따따따 선웅직 뒤에 따따따 제게 올 때. 난 죽고되더니 당보 사이 감 철았던 철 매랐던 매 롱랐던 롱낚시였던. 그래. 낚시 조당자네. 매지. 제 노로를 그래. 그게 나 하거나. 뭐 빼지도 선웅직 뒤에 남들이 들어오고. 저랬더니 오 선웅직 뒤에를 루지 빼래. 남들 새끼들 생도 빼래. 새끼가 새 망나들이 생. 누구 내롭대. 온집 빠리. 그래서 답을는 오들만 보여. 오들 쭉 막으란 말이야. 개배되나? 대답을 시는데. 대리팀에 따고서 조름 건 조름도 저렇게 빠르게 했지. 몸장 망은 천 노를 지났더니 걔도 송대죠. 걔도 내가 송대죠. 걔도 송대죠. 가이드는 좋고 그러더니 새 무배 내로 대찌벌라. 걔도 송대죠. 네요. 마빠로 딱히 문화에 받아 쏙내더니 바다 연리적 홍보원데 마도 되는 용기를 나타 등에 되는 용 또 나라고 성욕돼 또 나라냠대요 그랬다다 뒤통수에 쏘더니 나타 위에담대 사람이 인도 나타 깨는 거 맞는데 이제나 성욕이나 생각들이 계속 성욕하고 시집해와하고 낭하님하고 저밤이 버는데 자리 놓을 거 되지 좀 생을 깨셔내봐 생포는 찌버렸더니 계속 성욕 뒤동하고 해야 그랬지.
So, my Dhamma friends, yesterday of the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra, we have talked about the Yidam deity, and we have said apply yourself earnestly in visualizing your body as the yidam. And so I've given a brief introduction to that, and I do not know so much, but I shared with you whatever I do know. And we have completed the creation stage practice yesterday. And to summarize that, the purpose of the creation stage is in order to purify the existence of birth. And we visualize the deity in order to transform ordinary grasping thoughts. As the Tibetan Dharma king Songtsen Gampo had said, visualize the deity in order to purify ordinary conceptuality. So once we are born, we necessarily must die. The completion stage purifies the death process, the existence of death. And there's different types of completion stage, but what the completion stage shows us is the manner in which we die. So during the creation stage, we have visualized the outer universe as the celestial palace, for example. And through visualizing in this way, we sever the grasping to an ordinary, concrete existence. Things appear, and yet they lack true existence from their own side. They are compounds, and thus they are impermanent. The Buddhas have seen all these appearing things like illusions. Ordinary beings like us grasp at their reality, at their characteristic, their concrete reality, at their truth. And because we believe in the truth of appearances, we grasp at a self. And through this self-grasping, samsara has come into existence, and the mind has frozen into an ice block. So appearing things are impermanent as they are compounds. This is what we can establish just through logical reasoning. Things are impermanent. This outer universe may remain for a little while, but this body very soon will perish. And when the body dies, first the earth element dissolves into water, then water into fire, fire into wind, wind into consciousness, and then consciousness separates from the warmth, and the life comes to an end. So this body is such a compound that will disintegrate in this way. And the same is true for the outer universe. One day the universe will disintegrate. The entire universe is the macrocosm of the body. And no matter how many sentient beings there may be, their mind is the same. So a single person's mind is the microcosm of all the sentient beings, as the nature of our mind is the same. Just as there is only one such thing called light in this world. An intelligent person would understand it that way. So in order to purify the death existence, we practice the completion stage. And so there's different ways of practicing that, but in any way we must practice the union of creation and completion stages. And that is how things actually exist. The actual nature of things abides as the union of creation and completion stages. Marpa Lotsawa taught Milarepa this body, this aggregate of form that we have taken on, if not realized, is a heap of 4 elements, and all illness and suffering comes from it. When realized, it itself is the form of the deity. The deity is together with you in this moment if you realize it. Therefore, we have said yesterday, apply yourself earnestly in the practice of the yidam deity, your body as the yidam deity. And so when we practice the yidam deity, we must practice the union of creation and completion stages. And through that, we finally come to realize that the nature of the mind transcends birth and death. as it was explained in the old tantric teachings, when one realizes that, one attains a Vajra body, like a rainbow body, a Vajra body. That is the nature of the nature of the mind. And so the nature of the mind we must understand to be a union of creation and completion stages that transcends birth and death.
상계를 좀 가도 상계를 좀 생대 용이 요래 죽기 중이 탐체 생기 남는 상계니 사지 쫑대기 되고 가스나 타게야 사마 요래 사지 get세 요나 이 쫑대라 되네 상지 생기 2차 내도 2차 요래 나는 소비면 소파다 되래지 나진이 동행 정도로 와서 지빈이 사진도 그랬어. 해봤대. 인도대다 말이야. 디네가 마시나? 사고 본들이 ጭ뻑해요. 사고 대다오는 무슨 바도는 접장 동의를 잡고요. 도망가면 더 그래. 나바 사집에 본인 이제 송주도 나나 사집에 공부할 마도나? 제 마시나? 사고본들이 그 도망가면 왜 답답해 요 말이지 호발이지 얘한테 띵동대 강리 나도 소리만 인피 셈을 동시 사지 인피의 셈들씩 뭐지 인피로 상행에서 로서나 깨끗하더니 미모가서 이 시간에 전적으로 이 시간을 나타나더니 답하신 강남치 썸집을 잡았는데 이 차라고 요리지. 제 동무지는 돌았더니 다리 예담들 사람 맞송거나 이때 속으로 사족처럼 내지지 사족처럼 내지지를 들이다 하면서 이제는 생저 사람 끝 소소로 요리 이 사족처럼 띄고 뒤쪽 다시는 이 양미가 싸워 속자라고 들이 하고 이 사족처럼 띄나 이 사회 그 용들이 계십니다. 야 다다는 설리는 마지는 난 셈이 지피를 어떻게든 라데 되이되나 저 산이 심하더라 라시 그 위마저로 셈을 하러 줬어요. 라데 때와 좀 산이 바로 채소 물을 라공하 대니 밤밤 가세 오르지 마사데 예야매가 셈을 셈을 하러 줬어요. 산이 바로 이발이 라시 개바상 되더니 다 라시 거래 열네 이렇게 감대로 다방전으로 요리되나 오늘 답도 성적됐어 라냠도 요리지 대진 쪽에 대 하마고는 라레의 영향이 있잖아요. 또 저와 함께 기밖에 가시행지 팀에서 마마티에서 뭔지 이것도 마테다 함께 너무 나도 just 안들이 파세 쪽 빼봐지네 이들이 이피를 오지 깨집던 이 쪽에 되니 나진을 되니 근데 참아 직딩을 하는 줄 알고 직딩을 하러 가래요. 직딩받으면 좀 못했지 말했어. 그 속에 라인은요. 파상 보지는 때에서 내가 피다고요. 때에서 말을 그냥 왔다는 거 피둥이 왔다는 거요. 호랑이를 동해요. ጭ발해. 바로 일리도 ጭ발 차지고 갔어. 그놈사 저거 저기 떨어지는 것도 또 때에서 요래. 또 요는 동해요. 다다 속고치 모든 동해요. 땅에 요래. 야, 나비 출시는 빵고지는 고등에 오면라. 야오는 게 돼요. 말아래 밖에 말아래 바쁘 잡고게 디리슈니. 그지? 디리슈 퀸테키. 고디니키. 고놈이 이제 말아래. 디리슈 쭉 가래면로 쭉 빵고지 코리 Jawa di nishu tu gaga topo di gogo eti. Dela bero. Manari pa. Kongli Jawa ba eti. Ko dungeyo eti. Jawa ngni ko eti. Ko keshi bebe Jawa eti. Dungu dungu de tawa eti. Hako manari pa. Jawa kari koras. Mo mato saya yo marwa. Tamara pa kati na. Dungu dungu sende ko keshi bebe dungu. Ko gangen jingo yo marwa. Jawa ngni ti ta. 자꾸 자비 자사는 대사가 돌아요. 대주기 자고 대다 통제다 맹점 이런 말 같다. 말아리 빠지 맹점도 끼 진짜 봐서도 이거 진짜 만보 동해를 줬다 봐. 말아리 또 자다 열어 잡으기나. 가지고 봐야 돼. 감이서. 당부 사제랬어. 사제를 말아리 봤어. 자도 말아리 봐지는 거죠. 참하게 오빠 저 부기는 뭐라래 봐도 조관 보고 라. 뒤따도 싸움도 오. 다 잡이야지 대답을 해. 나를 잡고 잡어라서. 인지도 뭐 다 잡봉네 서래야. 매저 보래야. 야, 플라이 잡보래. 플라이 잡지 가도 매저지 가도. 다 소망상 그 싸움 당 플라이 잡지 가나. 그 사족 센터. 사족 센티도 되지 사고. 대라 다 계속 성적되나. 오, 나다 나무차 탐지 깨름, 뽕부차지 여름비지 생코로는 아끼들 뭐 뽕바지 여름비 랑지 싸와지 깨름비 이거 생코로는들이 싸와 똥바 동네 쪽에 계속 성적 다tok 돌릴 거라. 생사동 성적도 미리 로요 말이 들지를 때다고 돌아요 그래야지. 되거든요. 리지담이 랑니지도 못. 계속 분이 답자 니성. 이 마음건디 고쳐거는 좀 기는 보지 요래. 타마게 디 냠미키나 마디 냠미키는 답. 남마 사지 때마 용도도 하고요. 나봐도 진짜 고요 말이잖아.
And so we must practice the union of the creation and the completion stages. And as Magba had summarized it, if you realize the nature of your body, it is the form of the deity. The deity is together with you. And so, what is the nature of the deity? How has this deity really arisen? The cause of this deity, the primary cause, is Buddha nature. It has arisen from this ground of Buddha nature. It has arisen from the enlightened mind, from the Buddha. And where is this cause of enlightenment, this cause of the Buddha? It is within your own mind at this moment. The Buddha himself said, within all sentient beings is the Buddha. That is the authentic word of the Buddha himself. So everyone has it, this cause of enlightenment. And then just due to a small, slight condition that arises, sentient beings experience both happiness and suffering. There appears to be a duality of Buddhas and sentient beings. The 37 practices explain that this slight condition that arises is self-grasping. When we give rise to that thought of self, we experience suffering. And when we give rise to a thought that wishes to benefit others, we accomplish enlightenment. So it is just the question of a small condition that determines. If we do not understand the crucial point of the deity, then even if we visualize the form of the deity, still we will not pass beyond suffering. Even in a bardo after death, we may accomplish the form of the deity, and may even obtain some common siddhis or accomplishments. Still, if we have not realized the main instruction of the Buddhist view, that is the union of emptiness and compassion, even if you visualize the deity, you will still not pass beyond suffering. So it is just a slight condition that decides whether one will attain enlightenment or not, as it is explained in the 37 practices. The perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. And so you have Buddha nature, and based on that, if you give rise to love and compassion, in that very instant, the 5 afflictive emotions are transformed into the 5 wisdoms. And then as an expression of this wisdom awareness, the Pure Lands will manifest inconceivably. So if we understand this point, we understand how to actually practice the Yidam Deity. And therefore in the beginning, Lord Jigten Sungden said, apply yourself earnestly in the practice of Bodhicitta. And then based on that, engage in the practice of the Yidam Deity. So we all possess the cause of becoming the deity within us, but we must visualize and practice the deity based on an altruistic mind, the condition of bodhicitta. Then you have understood the life force or the roots of all practice. If you cultivate true bodhicitta, you will obtain the actual qualities of the deity. That is the meaning beyond birth and death. Even if your body, the physical body, is ordinary, after you die, if you have cultivated an altruistic mind and remember the Yidam Deity, the mind will become the Yidam. It is not the body that needs to become the Yidam, but the mind will transform into the Yidam when you think of the Yidam. And so that is why we are instructed to visualize and habituate the deity, to recite hundreds and thousands of mantra accumulations. That is all for the sake of not forgetting the deity. If you do not forget the deity, you will become the deity. You will transform into the deity in the second pardon only by merely thinking of the deity. You will transform into the deity and be born in the Pure Land of that deity. So it is just the turn of a small condition that decides whether we will be a deity or a demon. Like His Holiness the Dalai Lama also has advised us to not rely on worldly protectors, worldly deities. And that is because they have not yet passed beyond suffering themselves. They have accumulated some merit, and yet they have not separated from self-grasping. And through the merit they have become this God, this worldly God, but their mind really is like a human. If you benefit them, they will benefit you temporarily, but if you do not please them, then they will cause harm. And that is because they themselves still experience suffering. Although through the power of some merit they have special powers, but still, due to self-grasping, they still experience suffering. They are not beyond suffering. For example, you can see a rich person in this world. They have a lot of merit and great power, but still they are not beyond suffering because of that. As opposed to another person who understands the Dharma, even if they are a beggar, they still experience no suffering. They are like a king. As Milarepa one time was invited by the Nepali king to pay a visit, and the attendants came to invite Milarepa, and Milarepa said, "I'm not going." And the attendant said, "How can you, beggar, say something like that? You should be happy that the king invites you. You should really go." And Milarepa said, "He is not the king. He experiences suffering. I'm the actual king. Because he is the king that has passed beyond birth and death. That is the actual kingdom to be obtained." And now we see Milarepa, all he was eating was just nettles and greens, and he really had no normal food. This is how it would look to a normal, ordinary person. But at the same time, he realized the meaning that is beyond birth and death. And therefore he has really reached the kingdom of the deity's body. So we think about Milarepa, who has obtained such a state of liberation beyond suffering, and as opposed to a worldly king. The names of these worldly kings are, some of them may be left, but it is really just their names that are left. But these days, even still, so many years later, only by hearing the name of Milarepa, sentient beings are liberated from suffering. Milarepa renown has spread in the entire world. Milarepa has become an enlightened Buddha, and people, even nowadays, when they just see a small picture of Milarepa, they place it onto the crown and pay great respect. So it was really him that has obtained the actual kingdom. Therefore, Lord Jigten Sungden said, accomplish the kingdom, or see your body, the king of deities. Visualize the body, as the king of deities. So who is the actual king? Is it a human king, or is it someone who has found the kingdom of the union of creation and completion stages? A state that transcends birth and death. It is really the state that transcends birth and death, which is the actual kingdom to be obtained. And when we reach this kingdom, from that kingdom, then the deities appear, relying on Bodhicitta, from the power of Bodhicitta. And so when we talk about the union of creation and completion stages and how they are a union within our mind, we talk about the union of appearance and emptiness. The appearance aspect is the creation stage, and the emptiness aspect is the completion stage. And that is also contained within your own mind. The union of clarity and emptiness. The emptiness in your mind is the completion stage, and the clear awareness is the creation stage. So in your mind, there is the union. The nature of your mind is the union of the creation and completion stages. And realizing that, you will achieve the indestructible Vajra body that does not disappear. So that is the purpose of practicing the union of creation and completion stages. And I just gave a very brief and poor introduction to that. More about that, you should also ask Ken Rinpoche, who is here, if you're engaging in practice, and he will be able to help you. And if you practice the Fivefold path of Mahamudra, you really practice the entirety of the Buddha's teachings. Apart from that, there is nothing else to the Buddha's teachings. So in the root words, then it says, it mentions the unchanging ground. Take like the royal seat in the unchanging ground when we visualize the deity. And so that unchanging ground, that is the union of emptiness and compassion that you must remain inseparable from. And if you remain inseparable from the union of emptiness and compassion, then your ordinary body, speech and mind will transform into the pure body, speech and mind of the deity. And in the root text it says, if they do not transform into, if you do not transform into the pure deity, then you will not gather the assembly of dakinis. And that is due to the fault of self-grasping and afflictive emotions. When we hold the dualistic view of self and others, not even talking about not gathering dakinis, rakshakas and dakinis, we are even separating from our ordinary friends in this life. For example, one's wife and children, for example, don't want to stay together with one. If one practices this dualistic view. And so when you remain inseparable from the union of emptiness and compassion, self-grasping will be severed. Just as we have heard in Milarepa's story when he was in Lapchi, and sometimes the dakinis assembled around him and made offerings to him. This is the assembling of the dakinis. So if you have realized the pure deity, your own body as a pure deity, you will see the deity, you will enjoy the Pure Lands. If you do not part from self-grasping, if you do not part from the grasping to a reality, a concrete reality, you will not see the Pure Lands and the deities, nor will you enjoy them, the Pure Lands. And so these words that dakinis will not gather also are quite profound words. And each of these words actually is very powerful. And we also must understand it correctly, because otherwise you may think that, oh, that's another of these Trikung Kalgi practices, and that means now I must practice one of their deities. But that's really not the case. You can really practice whatever you like. You can practice any deity and apply the fivefold path of Mahamudra. If you just have understood the basic view of the fivefold path, you can really engage in any practice based on it.
생기 유마 제바 유는 담보대 대중의 생기 대바요 유는 이바대 다 시랍다 능기 유대 생기 대바지 하고 기스나 라마를 먹으면은 이 생기 내lok도 싸우라 그 돈이 하고요 돈이 하마오나 이 능기게요 능기 맞지더니 양사 무슨들 송족을 하고 족구요 말이에요. 다 족구 잘사. 디스는 라마를 무고 그래서. 석무비 내lok도 똑같아. 돈이 이제 송족도 딱발 들이 센트 상행제도 먼저 대처빠지구나. 라마를 센트를 하고 그래서.
The next is the practice of Guru devotion. Why do we need to practice Guru devotion? Sometimes actually people ask the question, why actually do we need to practice devotion to the Guru? What happens if we do it? What happens if we not do it? And it's a good question to ask. People have many doubts about that sometimes, and they say that, but aren't we the same? Don't you say we are the same, the Guru and me, so why do I have to practice devotion to the Guru? So it is a good question to ask actually. Why do we need to cultivate devotion to the Guru? And how is it if we do not cultivate devotion? So what we must realize is the mind of the Guru, which is related to your own mind. So in the Yidam practice we have said you must attain the royal seat or the kingdom of the unchanging ground. That is the union of emptiness and compassion. That is the nature of your mind. However, we are not able to always stay within this nature. We are distracted from this nature. If we do not realize selflessness, if we do not realize the nature of the mind, that is a union of emptiness and clarity abiding like space, even though we think we have compassion, it is a biased compassion. We have compassion for our friends, but we do not have great compassion that pervades all sentient beings. Only when you realize the nature of your mind, you will cultivate an unconditioned, a boundless compassion for all sentient beings. That arises from the realization that there is no duality of self and others. That arises from realizing non-dual wisdom. So when you realize the nature of your mind, you realize that there is no self and no other. There is no samsara, no nirvana that is separate. There is just a space-like union of clear awareness and emptiness. And some people have realized that and some have not realized that. Even great masters like the scholar Naropa, who had perfected studying, still he found that he must, in order to gain the ultimate realization, he must find his teacher Tilopa. Or Gampopa, who already had the 8th Bodhisattva Bhumi, or he had progressed along the stages and paths, even he found it difficult to realize the ultimate truth and had to find the beggar, Milarepa, as his guru. So that is the lineage, the practice lineage of blessings, where from mind to mind transmitted, we realize the nature of the mind. And this transmission is an uninterrupted continuum that is passed on from mind stream to mind stream. So we are connected to this continuum of mind stream with the Guru, and also we try to cultivate the qualities of the Guru, the union of wisdom and compassion. And this is only realized from a mind-to-mind connection. So if we fail to cultivate devotion, we will not realize the empty nature of our mind. And if we do not realize that, we will not cultivate unbiased compassion for all beings. And we will not realize the union with the Yidam Deity, the ultimate protection. So it is necessary to cultivate Guru devotion in order to realize the nature of the mind, the union of emptiness and compassion. If we want to obtain that realization, we must obtain the mind of the Guru.
This is not the Tatang Lama. Oh, Tatali Lama, Tatali Lama, Kong, that makes it is something. The Lama, the Miri is something. Maris, Lama, Napa, Gigores. Si, Nam, Swawa, Yang Lama Hako Motopatni, Swawa, Yang Lama Hako Maris. Then Lama good year, good Lama good years. Ripa Kangri, Tata Lama Zok, Hong Lama, Lama race, the Kangri was us. Kangri, the Kangri, the Nima Shana. 이 강제 마셔는 것이 초통 tuk더라스 강릉에 너마 마셔는 강제 쳐 있는 것이 초통이라고 말해야지 갖고 거라 빼지는지 무지 너마라고 그랬지 너마스 강제라고 들이 빼고 그랬어 이 무지 너마 무지 깨나 무구지 봐 강제 랑 코바를 타도 코바 등이 더불어 타고나 랑이 니가 상모보다 락지고 타고서는 나야 타와요 말이지. 가리 타고는 샘대 코바를 타고 샘대 코바를 타고는 코바 가리리 코바지 랑이지 나이지 나 타고서는 자를 타야요 말이지. 나야 타와요 말이지. 얘는 오다 이 타고 싸움부터 랑이 니가 냐도 타고서 랑이 니가 냐도 타고서 타고 로지구나. 따뜻 나 탈루요. 내가 탈들 말아 탈루 또 무슨 탈루 탈때 수고해. 오다 탈루 탈때 때문에 꼰조서 진 거고요, 살이지. 꼰조서 사제들 탈때 요 살이지. 이 꼰조서 다 띵인 거죠, 이제. 탈루 로제를 무제. 랑코와도 비저도 탈루 무. 그때 뭐 봐요나. 다 개비신이 이제 가래 남라지. 니 접고 이제마다 접촉고 구제가 갈라면 돼 접촉고 와대 내가 그 바지 무 구지 또 다도 로요는 뒤 내가 그 바거래 뭐 있어 그 배티 강풍을 첫째送거래 그 배티 지서 되니라는 강 잡나대 냠스는 거래 이그 배티 샘되는 이주 또 상인지 공부로 왔을 때 누가 있음 누구래 대나 이 가자 되게 라마지게 제가 제대로 왔고 단지 듣기자 인사해서 핀사해서 라마지게 핀세트 상황이요 요나한테 니도 매니 먹으비비 미길라 주제를 피도요 말아 뽀글 카미 뽀글나 아마도 마와 아메테 루고나 또 초토고 말이 되다 먹으비나 배워요 말 주시네요. 대다오는데 누구를 남마 급이 강들라 먹으니만 마셨나. 사업 주주면 용을 샘 먹어야 되는 애 그만 먹고 했어.
So what is it that we call a Lama? For example, the Dalai Lama, we say that's a person. We say the Dalai Lama is a person. But one thinks it's just a person, and that is not correct to think. There are four levels to a guru, a Lama. A Lama is the word for guru. And so there is the outer, the inner, the secret, and the utmost secret guru or Lama. The secret and utmost secret Lama, people do not understand normally. There are four levels of the Guru, and also the Guru possesses the four kayas, has actualized the four kayas or the four Buddha embodiments. So externally, when we look at a Lama, he appears in a human form, so that is the Lama, we can say that. But then there is more to that. The Guru's 4 kayas is like a snow mountain, and your devotion is like the sun that melts the snow in the snow mountain. And when it melts, then you will receive the water to drink. If there is no sun, then the snow will not melt and you will have nothing to drink and be thirsty. So your devotion is like the sun, and the snow mountain is the Guru's 4 kayas. So to cultivate devotion to the Guru, devotion is a term that we must understand. In Tibetan, it consists of 2 syllables. The word for devotion in Tibetan is mögu, so mö and gu, 2 syllables. First, mö means aspiration. One aspires to become liberated from the suffering ocean of samsara. However, if you only want to be liberated yourself, you will never be liberated. The mind must become liberated from samsara. And what is samsara? It is the thought of a self. So as long as you think, I want to be liberated, you have not separated from the self. And for however long you do not separate from the self, you will never be liberated from samsara. So if you truly wish to be liberated from samsara, you must separate from the self and give rise to the wish to liberate self and others from samsara. Whenever you think of an I, you will never obtain liberation. And so when you have finally resolved, I aspire to attain liberation for self and others, then I don't know how to do that. So I need a method. Who has that method? The 3 jewels show us the method. The Buddha has the method. So we must rely on the 3 jewels in order to be liberated from samsara. So this aspiration to become free, that is the first syllable of mögu, of devotion. And so when you have that, when you have this aspiration, then you begin to rely on a spiritual master. And that then is the second syllable, gu, which means respect. So it is aspiration and respect. So respect means whatever the master tells you to do, you will do it. You will listen to what he instructs you to do, and you... So, not today, we don't have so much time left. We have to stop at 4:30 today, but there's still a little bit to talk about left behind. And so we have talked about devotion before, and there is the uncontrived devotion and the contrived or fabricated devotion. First we cultivate the fabricated devotion, and that we cultivate through remembering the qualities of the Guru. And through remembering the qualities, we give rise to trust into the Guru, and the Guru feels love for us. So the trust and the love merge into one, and the Guru and the disciple cannot forget each other any longer. When the disciple thinks of the Guru, he feels love, and when the Guru thinks out of faith, and when the Guru thinks of the disciple, he loves the disciple. So in the end, they do not forget each other any longer. In that way, their minds merge. So first there is the fabricated devotion, where we think about the qualities of the Guru again and again, until the point where we do not forget the Guru any longer. And then, as we remain inseparable from the Guru, we realize that the mind of the Guru has the same essence of my own mindful awareness. That is empty in essence and appears in the form of the external Guru. But the one who thinks about the Guru, the one who thinks about the qualities of the Guru, is the mind that is like a mirror, and within that mirror the reflection of the Guru is displayed. And when we merge our mind with the mind of the Guru, past thoughts have ceased and future thoughts not arisen, and the mind just abides in its union of clear awareness and emptiness. That is the moment where the minds of the disciple and the mind of the guru merge. It happens on the ground of Buddha nature, where we are connected like mala beads on a string. On that ground, samsara and nirvana are one. Samsara and nirvana have a single ground. So first we cultivate trust through thinking about these qualities, and then eventually it becomes unfabricated, and we realize that actually the nature of my mind is inseparable to the mind of the guru, and that is the realization of the Svabhavika Kaya, or the essence Kaya. So although we still see the outer form of the guru, we give rise to faith into that guru, but actually we also realize that my own mind is not separate from the mind of the guru. And in that way, the guru and the disciple really are connected. So we cultivate devotion until we reach a point of non-fabrication. And during that point, we, as a disciple, realize all the qualities that are contained in the mind stream of the guru. And that is the ultimate devotion. And so it says in the end of this root verse, apply yourself earnestly in guru devotion. So again, in the beginning we fabricate, we cultivate devotion until we reach a point where we remain inseparable from the guru, and then it becomes unfabricated. Then our mind has merged with the guru. So then we realize the three kayas contained within our mind stream. These three kayas of the Buddha. And the Buddha is contained within the mind of the guru. And the guru, who is that? The guru is not the body, the guru is not the speech, but the guru actually is that mind. Therefore also when we take refuge, the ultimate source of refuge is only the Buddha, the mind of the Buddha. And so as Lord Chikden Songren said, I am a yogi who has realized my own mind, the mind of the guru, and the mind of the Buddha to be one. Therefore I apply myself in unfabricated, uncontrived devotion.
Lama la kumingu jede rasi lama to ku sa so malare be la o rang se de lama ri ni lama ri sha sam rang se ma rang de ba je yo di ga ri tri saja chen be dong dong na ya o saja chen bo rang se de saja chen bo le sha se rang sam de rang de ba je yo 제라 도망무서디 고독산 조선지로 갑니다. 무서 삼바당 문제리 때 무서 네 삼바당 문제지라 막 로마지가 들어와지 계속 나도 제발로 제도세 기청다. 딱 문이 동호들이 무슨 소속을 생각해 초단들이 그 책들이 럽탑마도 제와다는 내려와. 다른 책도 책이가 군지 가리도 삼바도 hin지 제와들이 동고지 쳐보도 보면은 나가는 것도 그래. 제와시. 되는 게다 라그 셈을 라그 대봤다. 살려고 그래요. 세미를 못 저래 좋다고 하지. 데려다 세미 동원되면 되나더니 다 사자 좀 다 드니 통고요. 데려더니 이발 사자 좀 보고 봤어. 사자 좀 보고 봐라더니 세미 이제 남카 양바라. 남도가 뜬소 마대는 진이 이제 작가를 막가래. 셈마도 바르니 이도. 셈마도 달라니 이도. 지금 돼. 다지들 사도 무슨 차반도 삭지 떠난다고 요 독지 떠난다고 요래. 배차고 맞잖아도 요래. 따뜻함이 되는 길로 요래지. 셈마도 봐.
And so once then the uncontrived or unfabricated devotion to the Guru arises, and we have realized our own mind to be the actual Guru. Milarepa said in his Guru Yoga, I pay homage to the Guru, my own mind. That is the actual Guru that we will recognize. And when we recognize the inner Guru, we cultivate faith into our own mind. That is the realization of Mahamudra. Your own mind is Mahamudra. Therefore, you give rise to faith into your own mind. In the beginning, we cultivate the conventional Bodhicitta that we call love and compassion. And with regard to that, the ultimate fruit of that, one student said to me just recently, I'm in love with love. And that is really actually a quite profound statement, a very meaningful statement. Because it is a feeling that arises in her heart, but it cannot really shown by words. But there is this feeling of like pure love. So one is in love with love. And it is that love that we call love and compassion. It is a vast love. And so that these words are found very significant. And so then when we give rise to that, and based on that we look inside our mind, then faith will arise when we see that nature of love in our own heart. And that mind itself is the meaning of Mahamudra. And so the fourth point of the Fivefold Path is the meditation on Mahamudra. And in the root text it says, unless the clouds of discursive thoughts vanish into the open sky of mind itself, the stars and planets of the twofold wisdom will not shine. Therefore, apply yourself earnestly in non-conceptuality. So the mind of non-conceptuality, that is the mind where all the different views meet. The Mahamudra, Dzogchen, or the middle way, the Madhyamaka school. All the views are contained within the non-conceptual mind.
게다가 생이 남과 양과라 생도 남과 다와지 바디 하고 보고 생 남과 다와 거리를 다다로 속이 생지 요메 딱게 땅이요 말이 요제는 통야요 말이 매대는 고대에 사와야 되게 제게 오래 맨날 작가보고 통보 생도 말이를 왜 땅을 말하지 생지와 요미 진짜 딱히 요미도 딱히 딱이요 말이 가리는 나지 요지 가리 내리지 배모는 좀 보고 그래 내 말이지 배고라고 그래 생도 내려도 나빠다고 저기 고라 저세라니 소비면은 토마송이지 최탐지 파도와서 와요 말이지 생도 내려도 거기 최탐지 파도와서 토와 때문에 봐. 남카다 위내로 돼요. 그래서 선도 남카다 그래야지. 남카 그때 강리 요든 대용이 요 말이지. 매는 남카 매나. 아니 그래서 거기에 강하지. 이 띄는다고 요 말이지. 빼는 지금 콜로들이 콜보나 똥방이면 콜로들이 코툭 나왔대. 근데 똥방이기 이게 코를 그래. 탐지 똥방이래. 종 똥방이래. 참. 네. 요지 다 줘야 요 말이지. 뭐 딱 봐. 인적 직접 요 말이지. 내 되면다 고대가 규탁지. 다 통지 받으니 샤이브를 대 떨었더니 딱고 로는 대 봐. 대 강해지 세배나 과해지. 대답은 남도 시바지. 다 고대가 규탁지. 남도지. 선지 메롱 중심이 지금 샤이브를 받는데 네번지 네번째 받거든요. 그래서 잡수가 납병을 납서 이런 거지. 납이 저모는 돼. 차로 우리 뺏기다가 또 네번째 이랬더니 딱 건데지 규탁이 저쪽으로 해 되나? 남도 좀 봤다 그래. 센터 남도니 내가더나 문에지나 무슨 나오남 잡았자 그도 원으로 가니 마고 되기로라. 남들은 노는 뜬산 손을 놓고 남손 그쪽 가양이요 말이야. 또 대배 제는날이라도 샘들고 그쪽 끼와다 쇼가 가양이 만나봤다 대요는요. 남도 샬롯의 내장이 벽대가 노를 좀 참들이 강해져. 딱봐 사제가 저 강탑이 사족 생비절에 사족 이제 사족설을 딱봐 사제가 저 강탑이 살려고 요래. 내가 보리타도 사지 저 강탑이 마다가 나중에 좀 호화야 살려고 그래. 살성원이가 동만이래 했어. 걔는 남도 좀 소대 된 거래. 남도 좀 소대 동만이니 뭐 신나? 희만이 희만이 가게 저 따윈 치마 못하면 대봐. 딱히 걸는 대봐라고 못하면 대봐도 사기가 하고 그랬어. 용이 막 탑지다 봐봐. 하고 그랬어. 쟤는 돈이 정해지던 쟁이번 치마라 돈이 이야기를 샤르면 나도 그 저봐 장이 돼. 내가 막도나 내려지니 대화도 동행이가 되게 제기로 그랬어. 오, 오늘 내가 안 해봤어. 저는 남도도 잘못해 니디 쪽으로 돼. 니라 되게 내서 내가 별명인 거야. 바로 명호가 되었다고. 탁탁 내가 염았다 그래. 내는 기다리 염았다 그랬어. 그런데 이 동다들 나니 소리면은 이 정신이 있었다니 봐. 니는 이거래. 더 동다면 내만 내가 지금 모르겠지. 저도 나와서 나랑 셈지. 이 하고는 나와 셈도 타지. 생이 동거 타지. 또 모르겠지.
So in the root verse it says the open sky of mind itself. So we must understand the nature of the mind to be like space. And within space we can neither talk about existence nor non-existence. It transcends existence and non-existence. So you cannot say that the mind is there, it exists, because you cannot see it. There's nothing to grasp at. And yet you cannot say it doesn't exist because it engages in all the activity of samsara and nirvana. For example, if I want to drink a cup of tea, first I need to think that, otherwise I would never end up drinking. First I need to think I want to drink that. And so there's this awareness that is doing things, that is intending to do things. Therefore we can't say it doesn't exist. So the nature of the mind just transcends the intellect. One cannot say it exists, neither one cannot say it doesn't exist. But there is this notion of an I. And we may think that that's me, it's that material body. But that is not you, because the material body, you will lose that one day. And then there's still that mind. That mind is really just like space. In the 37 Bodhisattva practices, in the very beginning it says, Shilvesik was the one who realized that all phenomena neither come nor go. And one realizes the nature of the mind, one realizes that all the phenomena within samsara and nirvana, which arise from the mind, neither come nor go, because mind abides like space, and there is no coming and going in space. So the mind is just likened to space, because you can neither say it exists, as you cannot grasp at it, nor can you say it doesn't exist, because it engages in all the activity of samsara and nirvana. And also, if you were to say it doesn't exist, then there is an empty space that performs a function. If there would be no empty space, then nothing could function in samsara and nirvana. Everything would be obstructed. For example, I have my prayer wheel, and in order for it to spin, I need empty space. If there would be no empty space, only matter, there would be no empty space, there would be no way anyone can do anything. I could not spin my prayer wheel. I need the empty space in order to spin the prayer wheel. So because there's empty space, things can function. That is the quality of the empty space. So everything has arisen from this empty space, and everything dissolves back into this empty space. So all appearance and existence, we cannot say it exists, because we will not find a single thing that possesses true existence, inherent existence. And also we cannot say they do not exist, because we can clearly see them. All the phenomena of samsara and nirvana appear to us. The nature of the mind simply transcends the realm of intellect, but the outer example is given to be space. And within that space, thoughts appear that create samsara and nirvana. The mind itself is like a mirror, and within that the different thoughts appear. And then ordinary beings grasp at the truth of these thoughts, and that is just like on an ocean a wave rises, meets with the cold weather, and freezes into an ice block. And then we have become samsaric sentient beings. So from this empty space, a thought appears, and we grasp at the reality, and that grasping creates samsara. The discursive thoughts that we grasp at are like the clouds in the sky. For example, when we talk about the mind and the thoughts within the mind, when we have not realized the mind, it is like when we are below the clouds and it rains, then many difficulties come from that sometimes. But when we are above it, like in a plane for example, then we are not, the space itself above that is not moved by anything that happens, by anything that moves through it. Mind itself, that is above the thoughts and everything that appears and exists, that is not moved by anything that arises. It always remains the way it is, beyond coming and going. So within that empty space, thoughts appear, and we grasp at their reality, so we accumulate karma, and these karmas lead us to wander in the 6 realms of samsara, where we experience great difficulty. On the other hand, if based on this ground, this empty ground, we give rise to bodhicitta, that will create the pure lands. They will naturally manifest. Temporarily, we are born in the higher realms and ultimately attain enlightenment. From an impure perspective, the realms of samsara appear. So all these, samsara and nirvana, appear arising from this empty ground. So in the root text it says, the clouds of discursive thoughts must vanish back into the open space of mind itself. And then the twofold wisdom of the planets and stars of the 2 wisdoms will shine. So the 2 types of wisdom is first the wisdom that knows things as they are, and that refers to the ultimate truth, seeing the ultimate truth. And so that is the truth that the Buddha has seen, that is free of any grasping to existence or non-existence. One sees all the things as they are. And then having seen things as they are, the second type of wisdom is the wisdom that sees however many things there are, all the things in their extent. As they have arisen from a single ground, one realizes the nature of all the things. So the thoughts appear from the empty ground, and we grasp at them. We do not realize their nature, and therefore they create our experiences of happiness and suffering. So from a conventional level, so that second truth here, second wisdom refers to the conventional truth. And from a conventional perspective, karma is trustworthy. A thought arises and we grasp at its reality, so we act out, we accumulate karma, and the karma will certainly ripen. But even that is just temporary. As it is just temporary, it is like an illusion. And from that perspective, all phenomena that appear are just like an illusion. So, in the 37 Bodhisattva practices, in verse number 22, that is the verse that explains the ultimate truth. And it says, appearances are one's own mind. From the beginning, mind's nature is free from the extremes of elaboration. So that line. So in the beginning, we must realize all appearances to be mind. And then we must realize that mind itself to be emptiness.
That's sem todo in the world. Sem todo number me to or no project down there. There are honey, Charles to torture. The dog matter, never managing. 아무것도 지마집이 규탐기 렘발문지 이제 제거랑이 다발바 롱다를 봐 세마게 뛰는 판에 별로 세마를 봐지 강리 롱다를 봐지네 별로 따라 무슨 이 잡을 사강도 뛰는 판구나 사도로 야랑 야 사강대 잡을 사강도 세마를 해야지 세마를 잡을 지들 대요를 됐잖아 세 마리 넣고 사강도 대치발에도 사강대 리펄 탈랐다 가도 이제 딱 깨달고 운이 뒤에 누가 폰다고 그래 사강대 폰으로 들을 때는 오 담배도 사강대를 람상 내지며 차고 운이 동상 폰으로 그러다 사지에 쏘는 발랑카나 딱 무슨 대마 시기만 저렇게 때는 다 아메리카 다르나 야송 마테다 좋은데 반항카나 로요리다 깨끗이 폰줘야 해 됐지도 네 제마 말해서 sem 이거야 뭐 차로로 무슨 다른 데요 가지 폰로 썼는데 드니게 뛰는 판을 때라 선 누구지 뛰는 주지 생긴이가 됐지 이거도 제가 맞아 붙이게 통으로 내 말만 뒤받을 나가래 나오래 무덥지. 따뜻한 내 마음이 나무도 르더라는 내 마음도 없지. 무덥좀 로지 저 이거 다 내지 비하면도 다 주는지. 호드나 왜좀 내요지 가와도 다 때려주는 제가 다 와야 그러고요. 사실 그 말에서 무덥지 로지 동 무덥지에서 하고 무덥지 로 대랑 싶고 그래. 아니 그 무덥지 그 시우 샤이고 요래지. 샤이고 되니 뭐 되게 레삭해 그래. 싸움 내가 미니하니까 사용고 요래. 무덕답을 어디 규센트도 가면 규세부대로 쳤다나 규세부 무덕삼나 규센 포야에 가도 무덕 내려가. 무덕을 줄래가 제고도 어디 가르쳐 제고도. 됐어. 오. 땅을 무덕삼나 사말했어. 땅이 하고 사말. 땅 독삼나 사말 무덕삼나 사말이 가양 마사는 생활하는 대로 나시지. 직접 맞서는 생각하는 대로 믿으려고 말다. 대요. 싸우지 가능을 시에람 마시바. 칸람 마시바. 생 믿으려고 요면 칸람 마시바들이 자꾸 해. 다 죽대래지. 나삼 주의 매시 사게. 얘네 뛰는 파들이. 야. 뛰는 파들 생부 내로 대고 대통공으로 대통나 또 사실 전부 대래. 지금은 다 demba 힘만이 또 뛰는 싹 빠졌더니 동담글이 네 동담글 대바라 어떻게 최상식 먹고도 제만 맞아 바꿔도 주더니 동담글이 힘만 jet다를 집어지 jet다를 집어지는 상식 먹고도 제만 맞아 봐. 전입을 집어들 때 인적들이 돈이 좀 내렸다니 내 좀 내. 나또 차이 제발 이거 뭐지? 아니 맞아나 이렇게 내서 안 보이고 그래. 다 그래 최고 그래. 별을 갈아라 들어 정말 전이 제잖아. 뭐가 나하고 그래. 이래 연대더니 나보다 이모 다시 동시에 제 보내더니 제 고고를 맞아서 저게 내가서 동반이 이제 야전더니 나는 도요 말에 이전더니 제 따윈 침바, 제 입을 침바도, 제 따윈 침바, 번데기 주답게 맞아봤지. 제 입을 침바거더니, 돈이, 준비해서, 준비해 사람이 마양심에, 지금이더니, 니디는 매봐. 그 준비를 갖다야 요봐. 이게 소탄이서 말한 봐서. 이거 다가 다 차용을 때려 동담배 때 봐서. 진입에 진 봐서. 그 지만이 되더니 지만이 되 남갈 배잖아. 니 마서 나와. 나래지. 대답을 요거 있어.
갈라꼬라 갈성성.
지만이 니 마다.
말해. 갈라꼬라 갈성성.
배는 갈아야 오, 탐지에 똥만이 이제, 탐지에 똥만이 떼고, 가리는 기어 말해서 세게 하네, 소마잡 세게 하나? 사실, 고속, 탐지에 똥만이 준비해요 말해야 돼. 준비 매가 나왔던 거다. 준비 콜고 그러가, 유무가. 하고 시키고 말, 유무가 지 똑하고 말. 똥이, 바로 똥이, 말, 생똥이, 말, 나게, 살고 유무가, 유무가 띠똥 바로 오고 그러가. 뭐 똥바람 맞아 들어가서 자오름도 똥만이 해, 자오름도 쳐야 돼. 자오름처럼 골짜기를 다 도는 거야. 자오름도 쉬어보고요, 그래. 흥지게, 땅바닥 흥지게 나중에 뭐 쉬어보고 맞아, 저기. 똥만이 뭐 하고 왔다면 저기 오래, 용고 그러라. 그래서, 있을 때 똑바로 봐도 똥이 흥지게 다니라고, 똥만이 이제 동신이 그때 hingi를 보면 무슨 적대들이 자꾸 사망 차차버리면 혈하더니 약치쳐서 예매봐 차는 이 나빠서 내고 또 다뭐 용 또 사톱들이 다 산지 주주가 사통성 쪽들이 또 요래 다이어트면 또 다대가 그 짜다이를 납득 그 요말 기회 못 했다는 요를 마음 가르쳐 좀 오래지.
So in the root text it says, apply yourself earnestly in non-conceptuality. So that from non-conceptuality, actually it doesn't really mean no thoughts at all. It means that while thoughts continue to appear, you do not grasp at their reality. So the aim is not that there is no more thoughts. Thoughts appear, but you do not you are not carried away by these thoughts. You do not cling to these thoughts. You perceive all of the arising phenomena, but you do not grasp at their reality, understanding that all the phenomena are compounds and are impermanent. And this is a fact that actually is established when we apply logical reasoning, the logical reasoning of the valid cognition. This is how things are. For example, when you think about this planet Earth, and we think this is true. So because we perceive this world, we live in this world, and so you can ask someone, so this world, you can say this world is not true, it doesn't really exist. And then this person may be confused and say, what do you mean? What are you talking about? We clearly are here on this earth. How can you say it doesn't exist? What you can do is you pick up a little ball of earth in your hands. That is earth, right? And then you blow on it, and then it is dispersed. It becomes nothing. And in the same way, earth is earth. In the same way, this planet earth will be dispersed, just like that in the end. So that is one argument one could make. And when one understands that, immediately the grasping to the concrete reality of this world will somewhat diminish. And it is something also scientists have seen. They have gone to the moon and have been out in space and saw this little planet Earth, just like an inch size, a little planet. It seems so insignificant, and in the end it will become destroyed. We don't know when it will come to an end, but even scientists know that it will be dispersed eventually. So the outer universe and the inner sentient beings lack any inherent existence. From that perspective, through that reasoning, we can really understand that things do not exist on their own accord. They lack true existence. And when we understand that very easily, we will be able to grasp less at the things that appear to us. So we have established things lack inherent existence. Then one may think, well, then things do not exist then. Because you say they lack inherent existence. So if you say this body doesn't exist, this world doesn't exist, then karma doesn't exist. Then karma is a lie. Then what you Buddhists say doesn't make any sense. But then the Buddha said that statement is falling into the view of nihilism. It is true that in the beginning we must understand the non-existence of things, but then once we understood that, we also must let go of that thought. We also must let go of the thought of non-existence. So we must come to a view free from extremes, that is neither clinging to existence nor non-existence. So when we cling to things, then we believe in their reality, so we give rise to afflictive emotions, accumulate karma, and will experience a result, temporarily. Then, when you look inside your mind, do things really not exist? You can even see it when you just look inside your own mind. If you think that your mind does not exist, from one perspective it is real because you can't see it, but then you can also argue, but who is the one engaging in all these activities? Who is doing all that? So you can't say it doesn't exist, because apparently, obviously, you're doing things. So you can neither say it exists, nor can you say it doesn't exist. That is the ultimate view that we need to realize. And so when we come to a state of non-conceptuality, the mind does not go out of existence. There is always great clarity, a clear knowing awareness. It just cannot be expressed by words. But it is a nature that never ceases to be and clearly knows. It is difficult to put that into words. But the Buddha said that is who you really are. Inexpressible beyond word and thought. And that is the nature you must see. And when you see this nature, you have seen Mahamudra. You have seen the twofold wisdom, or the two truth, the ultimate truth that realizes that there is not a single phenomenon in samsara and nirvana that possesses true existence. And then the conventional truth, the wisdom that sees all the things there are, that realizes the fine details of karma, cause and effect, that realizes while things do not truly exist, if we cling to their existence, we accumulate karma, and for as long as we have not eliminated our afflictive emotions, we will continue to accumulate karma. So we must purify our afflictive emotions. And so, for example, it is just like when you eat, when you say things do not really exist, and then you're still eating food, for example, but then you say, oh, everything is just emptiness, so I don't have to chew whatever I eat, and then you swallow it just like that, you probably get very sick when you eat food like that. So we must have a correct view. And so when we talk about emptiness, it does not just become nothingness. There is a clear knowing capacity that clearly understands all the phenomena in samsara and nirvana, that knows the true nature as it is, that clearly knows the trustworthiness, the workings of karma, cause and effect, yet there is no grasping to their reality. So the Buddha said, do not fall into either of the two extremes. So the twofold wisdom realizes things as they are and as many things as there are. And in the root verse it is explained, or the illustration of the sun and the moon is given. And so when we hold the view that things do not really exist, like a nihilist view, for example saying that karma does not exist, still we will continue to engage in activity driven by afflictive emotions. So obviously we continue to experience suffering. So although things are empty of self-nature, they do not really exist, we must realize that. We must realize the empty nature of the afflictive emotions. Just like we must realize the water-like nature of an ice block. While it is true that ice is water, if it doesn't melt and you throw it onto someone's head, he will bleed, although it's water. But the ice block must still melt. So that is to say that only an intellectual understanding of emptiness will not do. You also must gain experience and thus realize the meaning of emptiness. That is the union of emptiness and compassion. And so then when we realize the actual meaning of emptiness, then it is like the ice block melting. And when the ice block melts, it becomes non-dual, it merges with the ocean. So that is the ultimate practice or view of the Buddha's teachings. In the beginning we must understand, then we must experience, and ultimately we must realize. So ultimately we must realize the Buddha's Dharmakaya, that is the union of clarity and emptiness. And that is the meaning of Mahamudra. So this is, Rinpoche says, how I would put it. But in the future you should also ask Ken Rinpoche, since you have him here.
le tambo na hindi tawe lari sobimen de nani jatal nawa da rang de senji tambo nawa de sense ta ke tri sem ta sarje na tambo nawa da ta ke tri nawa sense ta ke da tri sem de ro na tri semi to par ta ke so tri de ji se de ni pa semi to par ta ke ba de ta 시랍을 내는데 고점 넘버만 또 시랍죠. 탑당되지 고점만 또 시랍. 대 아생되는 그래서 관하고 요구요래. 기선다 하고 나와 sempre 다 죽고 나와 sempre 다 죽나. 무서다다 가시고 바쁘신 강 요리들나 가리나 다 재성차기 요래. 말냐와 요리들 가리나 다 재성차기. 다시 오다 사제가 요절해야 돼. 봐. 사제라면 설득 문에 요리도 사제 토끼고 말이지. 대통령들이 나와서도 사제에서 야샤야 용을 안 하래. 요가도나 랑리 매바도나 랑리 있으면 지금 갖고 그래. 뭐 랑리 뭐냐서 말하나. 야와 요가 다 죽지. 다 죽고 요래. 기대로들이 나와서도 다 되게 기체 뭐래. 나와서 타치 주력에 주급에 유진직 강해지는 랑그 셈디기 고대이가 랑그 셈을 타와 다외 하고 진짜로 타치 그때도 다 하고 요러와 얘는 다 나와서 좀 타대 삐 정도를 야면서 비 말하는 데네들이 저기 요래 말하는 데네 무슨 야사나나 야구는 이콕 대요나야 이콕 대마매와 차차비 양자 따에 대마매와 차고들이 말람 당게 말람 따나 랑직부가 뉘선우진 직대 나규지 세비 야 즈르 박차도 다 지내래 같이 요래 로바적으로 로는 딱딱 저로 랑마도 저거 보고 요 말이야 대답도 이제 대나 나도 말한테 조개니 세디요 말하지. 뭐라 동반이 다음에 뭐라 동반이 하시 다 뭐라 내 말지 그 전부 거리나 대거리나 마다 뭐라 미바 땅통데 이라고 요라. 이런 사기게 세대 말한다 그래. 근데 그 탐게 말한다 그래. 해서 대체도 말한다 꼭 하고 뭐래. 나도 인도 느끼야도 아니 된 거래. something. Say the Tambu, Maso, Ama, never kill Maranko, Parsi, Namsi. Homa, Marpa, some there of the Matong, now on about that, Malinger. My and the butter, Major, 대화도 그거래. 노차요래지. 레사적과 대교 관계, 레상이 가리우로다, 노화로 가왔지야를 이거는, 빼놓다 목체치는 더 놀랐지, 와요, 그래. 시랑체치는 야war지로, 그래. 아직 나라를 찍어요, 노차 찍고는 말했지, 그래. sen나라, 노차 sen나서 대통령이 나를 찍어요, 노화로 가왔지야, 사웅지. 노차다, 그냥 그 개를 세면은, 그래. 따뜻하니 뭐, 동양에 받았다, 그래. 이러다 강촉치에다 들이들어 랑랑 메꾸고는 목하는 짝새 뒤봐야겠더니 끼와랑 좀 그래. 끼와랑 차리는 다 파 끼와랑을 철 마시더니 벌써 샤지가 말합니다. 샤지 그러지. 마가가리 끼와랑 차리더니 깨니 다 못지. 더니 받은 나 더니 개더니 타마치에 더니 다 사기 세사 바도로 팔려 차지. 빨리 세 발라지 세나와 직장 나야요 말이야. 땅이 세는 말람다고 차송. 다 바지 나와도 다 말람다고 달리지, 다 로고요래, 맹전들고 공부하소. 들이 양땅도 땅, 이내에 세는 말람다고 그래야지. 대고는 나와도 생겨 좋아요. 대대서 하고 요래. 대하고는, 나도 생기도 생겨지도 땅, 이내에 대대서 하고 살아야 돼. 오늘 세동이 띵 가려줘야 돼. 좀 교육을 내다 박차게. 샘대 용리 그 내사를 내문이 차대 요리 좀 내다 박차게 성문이 뛰서 차고 요리. 대한 중탈 때는 똥요리. 제일이 다 빨리 제일 다 흙주기하니. 하다 좀 교육을 내다 박차 그렇게 내길 때다. 흙주기가 샘들지도 하구나. 샘도 가리래. 샘이 누구를 주고 사다 잘하지. 샘도 조설 가리래들 빼너들이, 저기 있나? 저기 홀로 든들이, 샤루 콜들이 샤지도 별로 샤이고 그러와. 니 샘거는 걸 내기에 먹이와 사모들이 레드 넘는 유모가, 그러고 끼와 대게 레드 쌓아야 돼. 샤지다 세요로 샤이고 요를 빼나. 가져들 독신 공부 요로. 독신 공들이 걸려 상hin기 공되나? 먹는 샤루도 샤이고 그러와. 얘 너기 노화를 넣은 상황들이 샤이고 버리지. 이제 샤이들 하고 샘이 샤이고 하고, 다 샘이 내로 넣네. 샘이 넣네. 그거 다 달라지. 다들이 샘은 또, 이제, 샘들은 똑똑이 다 마땅지 주세요. 샘들은 요대 딱 쪼다한 거는 똑똑한 건 해야죠, 말이지. 요대를 준지 이제 떨떠를 하고 말하지. 매일대로 고대에 사와타기 재워요라지. 생판적 때다. 셀파메에서 동성 요리 내가 다 띠띠, 너리 제가 타지를, 내가 제가 타지는, 미, 가리, 샤우만 나도라, 좋기도 마다운지. 생판하나 딱 때마도, 생사 보는 것도, 내들 마도 봐. 내들 샤우만 나도다, 유문 봐. 강차를 주도 받다는 미적으로, 쳐달라한테도 미적으로. 대화라 착해요, 말이. 동해라, 이렇게 요, 말이. 삼지. 제 자기 맞지라? 자당도 못 버리면 나와면 좀 들으시지, 좋게 요, 말이. 좋게 매나, 무조건 가리왜. 지는 가리 좋거든. 지는 가리, 용디 가리도. 지는 좀 가리도, 딱 되다, 매직에, 얘기처럼 죽으려서 코로나가 올라. 코로나는 코로나는 그냥 맞지, 나도 죄시. 코로나 뽕 많이 뭐 딱 때마다 자주, 코로나 매일 살아. 생각하는 별게 없나. 때려 딱 때도, 나무, 나를 보는 누가 당지. 딱 나려고, 나세지 동물이래. 다 때려 양양양도 지인애들이. 락배 톡보면 책임 받으려면 나들이 나잉 락별이 따로 세면 되는 세트들이 자동으로 양으로 들어가지. 저배중, 마디배중, 이 돼지들이, 코로나들이 줘도, 들이들 세면도 와서, 또 들이들 뒤주지. 마디지, 가족할 살거라. 내 말 마디. 돼지들 송 데려와. 마디배중, 니. 진군이 진짜, 이렇게 요 말라.
So although